Hello, and welcome to Musings from the Mystics. I'm Marnie.
And I'm Natalie. We are your guides on this crazy and sometimes tumultuous journey we call the human experience.
Each episode will share our musings about the current energetic climate,
how we're navigating these times,
and tips to help you get the most out of your journey.
So join us to be awakened, empowered,
and expand into conscious action.
Hello, and welcome back. Obviously, we decided to continue.
We did decide to continue, at least for the
foreseeable future.
yes.
Yeah. So the other day, I was thinking about time in the sense that I have a part-time job, and the days I'm not at my part-time job, I was calling my days off. But I have clients, and so it got me on this sort of thought train of we need to relanguage time and our relationship to it. And so I'm going to back up and start at the beginning because I've done a little research. And time is a relatively new concept in the span of human history. And we have become absolute slaves to the clock.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So I wanted to give a little context. So I did a little bit of Google searching this morning.
All right, give it to us, Marnie. What do we have?
Here's the context. Okay, so humans have been around for 300,000 years. That's a long time, right?
Yeah.
300,000 years. Now, the invention or keeping track of time did start in like ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. I didn't go into why they started kind of keeping track of it, but we even know like okay.
I have a good idea. So I like to watch the National Geographic, like Egypt or Discoveries or things like that. They ancient Egypt, you can see they used to mark water lines of the floods,
Right.
and they had a space where they made I'm going to say contraption because I can't think of a better word, to harvest the water from the flood and make their crops grow. So they started that with a seasoning time kind of thing.
That must be the water clock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Keeping track of those.
So it was a seasonal thing. So, and we know indigenous people tracked the sun, they tracked the moon, but that had to do with seasons. It had to do with the natural rhythms of the world. It didn't have to do with it's 12 o'clock and time to eat lunch.
Right. Or I have to be at work by 9 a.m.
Right. So mechanical clocks did not actually come into the human experience until between 1270 and 1300, right? So for only the last 750-ish years, out of 300,000, have we even been keeping track of time, right? In this kind of mechanical way. And then, of course, there were further inventions of clocks. The pendulum, it helps us chart our course on the seas and things like that. But it was really the Industrial Revolution that created the workday, the time clock of this is when this happens, this is when that happens, which is the 1800s.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So when you think of that, 1800s, that's only 200 years ago. So as humans, we've only been really focused on time in this way for a couple of hundred years out of 300,000. And it was a byproduct of making us productive and keeping us controlled, right?
Yes.
It was, here's your work day, and you need to be here at this time, between this time and this time, and this is how we work, right? When we haven't really broken free of that mindset. And so if you know me at all, and many of the listeners know me personally, I do not have a very strong relationship with time. I never know what day it is. I never know the date. I keep a calendar open, like paper calendar open on my desk because I never know what day it is. And I love that because I used to be a slave to time, just like everyone else. I used to really be monopolized, controlled, and Natalie and I have this similar thing. If you are on time, you're late.
Totally me.
Now I am never late to anything. I am always early. I am not ever late. So I do know the value of the time, especially with regards to clients and appointments and things like that. But I don't allow it to monopolize my ever waking thought. Oh, it's this time and I need to eat dinner. Oh, it's this time and I need to go to bed. Oh, it's this time and, on and on and on. I have learned to move more into rhythms and whatnot. Um, and and so it got me thinking about this concept of time and what we're doing. And you'll agree with me, probably the biggest excuse, and that is exactly what it is, that we hear from clients about why they haven't done their homework that we've given them, why they haven't meditated, why they haven't done the thing that's going to make them go forward or help them heal is, I didn't have time. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super disturbing. It's disturbing to me because when you look at the history of time, its production was about production,
Right.
and creating this finite viewpoint and the system, and how detrimental it has been to our natural rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't pay attention to seasons. We don't pay attention to the natural rising and setting of the sun. We are living by a clock versus what is natural for us, and that has created a lot of problems, sleep issues. And then we do this stupid thing where we jump forward and we jump back. What really? Right? As if our circadian rhythms aren't messed up enough. Let's twice a year really jack it up.
Thank you for, I forget which president. Thank you for that for the farmers. Really appreciate that one too. Mm-hmm.
I don't really, at this point, I don't get it, and I don't know why we keep doing it. But again, it was about production,
Yes.
right?
It totally was. It was for the farmers. I do know that.
Right, I do know that too. But that's completely different. We don't live. Farmers don't
Right,
aren't out in the
doesn't
fields
matter
and hands.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but with the farmers, like every vehicle that everybody owns now has a huge ass light on it. Like you can shine light in the field in the middle of the night if you get up and feel like working in the middle of the night. I mean, it's very,
Yeah, super interesting. So really, the clock was. Uh, it's termed by Scientific America as helped drive the evolution of our technology and science throughout history. But really, as human beings, I find mostly, at least today, it has been detrimental to how we relate to each other, how we relate to the earth, because everything is this artificial construct of time.
I would agree with that. There's also it's also a schedule. It's also there's so many ways we could go with this.
I know, right?
But the point, well, let's all right. So let's go back to your point of you
Yes.
were calling your days off.
Right. My days off. When I wasn't working at my part-time job, which is outside of my home, where I get in my car and I go, I was calling them days off. And I still had clients, so they weren't really days off. And I started to think about, why am I calling it a day off? Why do I think that work, where this is a program, I'm being very observational and aware of the program that I am functioning under. Because I left the house, it was work. Because I was at home, still doing work, but it was home, I didn't count it work. And I thought, oh my gosh, right? And we can stretch that to every stay-at-home mom. They don't feel like they work because they don't leave the house, right? Even you leave the house, you drive your kid every single day to and from school, to and from sports activities, and we don't consider that work.
No, and it's funny because when you said the day off, I was like, I don't use that word anyway. Like, I don't use that language. I will call it like the weekends
Mm-hmm.
are family time. And that's what I call my weekends, family time, because I'm with my husband and my son. But I did like 6 loads of laundry yesterday on my weekend. And even though I love to cook and I like to make certain things at certain times, like that's still,
Working,
it's still
being productive.
doing something.
Yeah.
It's still not like a complete rest and relax.
Right.
And we all have to eat, so I'm not saying that. It's just, it's our whole program.
Right, the program around it.
It's the program.
And I
around it.
realized I had this realization, and I'm like, I'm calling this a day off, but it's not a day off. I'm working I'm, still being productive for someone else. Let's
Right.
call it that. I was being productive for someone else, doing something in service of someone else. It wasn't a day off. And so then I thought, when was the last time I had a day off? Right? And then I was like, oh, so this kind of realization happened of no wonder I'm exhausted. No wonder I don't have energy. No wonder I feel like going to bed at 8 o'clock at night. Aside from all the other reasons, the energy and the shifting and all of that, integrating of all of that. The other part of it, the really real part of it that everyone experiences is this idea of time and these schedules and structures that are solely meant to keep us productive for someone else and not about ourselves. And so, of course, in true Marnie fashion, I was like, oh, we need to relanguage this. I am not going to call this a day off because it's not a day off, right? What is a true day off for me? What does that look like? And it means I don't have to get out of my pajamas.
Right.
To me, that is a day off. Like, I do not have to see anyone in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I do not have to get out of my pajamas, and I can do whatever I want to do. That is my day off. Now, that doesn't mean I don't maybe do the dishes or, God forbid, cook.
Marnie doesn't like to cook as much as I like to cook.
I don't like to cook at all.
She likes it when I cook and bring her stuff.
I do. Um, so, and maybe I will do something around the house because I feel the energy to do it. Not because I have to do it, not because this is my only time I have to do it, is my days off to do this work. I don't do that to myself. My days off are what do I want to do, and I let my intuition, my instincts, my desires, especially my creative inspirations, lead me through the day so that I do feel restored and can go back to this insane like 10 day in a row work day because that's the actuality of my world is I do work often 10 days in a row without a day off.
Right.
And so I'm bringing this up because I think it's important that we really look at work. And if you're a mom, I mean, I remember I did not work outside of the home when my daughter was in school. I was a practicing artist. I did have an online business though. So I would be working almost every day, but I wasn't considered work because I was at home and I didn't leave and I made my own schedule. So in my conditioning and programming, that wasn't work. But she danced competitively and we drove to dance every single day. I drove her to and from school every single day, but it wasn't considered work. And so I think we need to relanguage what work is and what it means and really use our definition of our day more accurately.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
More accurately. And you had an interesting story to share about time.
I do. I actually made my So I've been, I don't know, integrating, I guess, like the rest of us. But Saturday night, my husband was out, my son was home, I was home, and at 9:30, like I got this wave of exhaustion. Like I was sitting in a chair watching TV, and I was like, I can't even watch TV. I can't even process what they're doing on the television. And I was watching a cooking show. I was watching something I loved, and I couldn't process what they were doing.
Your natural rhythm was kicking in.
Yeah, and I was like, I gotta go to bed. So I'm like, all right, I'll go back. I'll get in my bed. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to sleep. But my husband wasn't there, and my son was playing online with his friends, and I was like, oh, it's too early for him to go to bed and get off his internet and do all this kind of stuff that I unfortunately have to monitor these days with a teenage son. I'm sure some of you out there can feel it for me. So, and I say have to. I choose to monitor it because we've had some adverse things happen. So,
Point being, he was not ready to go to bed and you were.
correct. Yes. Thank you. And so I was like, okay, I'll give him till 10:30. He has till 10:30. So I talked to him. I'm like, 10:30, time be done. And at 10:40, he still wasn't ready, and I'm getting mad. And I'm like, all right, come on, it's time to go. And I'm getting more mad. And he's not following my schedule by any stretch. He had no interest in following my timeline. And finally, he came downstairs, and I was so mad by the time he got there and so annoyed that my natural rhythm was gone because I was so annoyed. And I was just mad.
So you stayed up instead of going to sleep.
I stayed up instead of going to sleep. And and then I was annoyed, and then I couldn't go to sleep. So then I'm even more annoyed. And so the next morning, I had the aha moment. And I was like, why did I do that to myself? I could have texted my husband and said, hey, make sure your son's in bed when you get home. We're going to sleep when you get home. I'm going to bed, good night, and left it at that. Instead, I had to make, I don't even know why. Like,
You were working.
I was working.
You had mom hat on and you were working.
I was trying to figure it out. Like, how can I do all this and make it right for everybody instead of saying, like, you all figure it out. I'm going to sleep. And again, the next morning, clear, fresh, like, oh, uh-huh. And it is those things. I mean, it's that huge social conditioning because I do have the other end of it too, of the mom portion of the yes, I'm enlightened. Yes, I'm trying to give him a lot of leeway to find his own timeline, time frames to figure out certain things. However, teenage boy, hormones, school, girls, you name it, going on. I feel like he is not capable of regulating some of those things.
The frontal lobe has not developed yet.
Right, right. So there is that timeline too, because I want to stress the importance of sleep to him. And if I don't monitor his time, he's not getting those things.
Yeah, so as a mom, you have two clocks going.
Yeah, totally. And on top of that, like, and trust me, people, I know the people out there that are going to say, well, let him go. He'll figure it out. He's going to figure it out himself. I am not willing to let him fail that drastically at this point in time. And I say the word fail, and yes, I'm throwing it out there because I've given him opportunities and he hasn't been able to do it so far. Not that he won't. And we're still in this human 3D world. He still has to go to school by law. We chose to live in this country.
Right.
He has requirements to live in this country, do what we do for some of those things. So that struggle is real as well.
Yeah, see, as me, I would have been like, get off the computer, I'm going to bed. You don't get any more time, too bad. That would have been me.
Right.
You're a much more lenient mother than I was.
I have my moments. I do have my moments. And And I have a husband who I'm co-creating with too, who is not as lenient. So we kind of balance each other. And we've got a lot going on. So this time thing really screws with all of us.
Right, it really does. And it was interesting because I brought this up about a week ago that let's talk about this because I had this epiphany of I said, well, I had a day off and it wasn't actually a day off. Um, and and then this morning I had another download of some juicy conversation we can have. But then I was on Instagram and I saw this post from Activations with JJ. So she is a channeler, a starseed. She channels light language. She has a beautiful voice. If you're interested in those kinds of things, I highly recommend you follow her. But her message this morning was message from the Arcturians about redefining our concept of time. So, of course, I recognized the synchronicity and said, okay, definitely we need to talk about this. So, this is the message as channeled by Activations with JJ. These are not my words, this is her post. We come to offer you peace, to ease your fears and remind you that you are actively creating your future. We too, as a collective, have been in your shoes and honor every stage of evolution. Over time, we've learned that this evolution is more effective when one remains present. While we mention the future, we see it less as a linear progression and more as a vibrational experience, which I love this. To us, the future is not time-based, but frequency-based. In the coming months, you will begin releasing your attachments to linear time. You are on the path to becoming masters of time, where time no longer governs you, but you govern time, using it as a tool for ascension rather than something in conflict with it. We understand this may bring up deep-seated programming, especially around concepts of time and aging. But remember, time is an illusion, malleable like putty in your hands. We invite you to release attachments to linear time and allow our transmission to support this shift. We introduce you to a group of beings whose sole purpose is to mentor collectives on the use of time, known to some as the Mayans. They existed outside of time and space, ready to guide you. These beings will assist you in redefining how time can serve humanity's ascension. Time travel is already possible in this now moment, and many are already engaging in it, some unknowingly. We invite you to open your awareness to better perceive when you are shifting into different timelines or time junctures. For those ready, we project onto your mind's eye a blueprint of time, represented by a toroidal field. We assure you that the probability of repeating that experience is very low. We encourage you to step confidently into your role as masters of time, trusting that this will benefit humanity, you personally, and Gaia. So that all may feel really unreachable or woo-woo, as people like to say, and I hate, or kind of like a big concept to sort of swallow. And I mention it only to say it's a possibility,
Right.
right? It's a possibility. And can you open your mind and your life to a different way of working with time, a different way of relating to time? Like I said, I never know what day, I don't know what time it is right now. I I know it's Monday because I do have to go to my outside my home job. And I will get there on time. But I don't, there's one clock in my house that is accurate ish.
Only one. I can attest to this because it does drive me nuts.
I have one accurate ish clock. There are other clocks like on the microwave and on the coffee pot and on the oven that are not accurate. And I do this on purpose because I don't want to be governed by time. I want me to I'm hungry. I don't go, oh, it's only 4 o'clock. I can't eat dinner. I'm hungry. I'm going to cook myself some dinner. I don't care what time it is. So can we like begin to work with, relate with time in a different way? It doesn't matter. Listen to your body. Listen to your instincts. How are you feeling? And relanguaging also the time that we are spending, and not work is not only 9 to 5 when you're outside of the house.
Correct.
Work, if you are home all day doing chores, guess what? That's work. That is not a day off.
Right. Right.
And I just think it's really important as we move forward in our evolution and ascension that we look at these constructs, that we look at these programs and these, they are limitations. How can I relate to this thing, which can be helpful, like when you have an appointment and you need to know, right? We all carry around a computer in our, well, I don't put it in my pocket or on my body, but we carry around this thing. Set a timer. Set an alarm. You don't have to hold it. You don't have to hold it onto it. You don't have to look at the clock every 5 minutes. Set a timer and let it go.
Right.
You have to go somewhere. It's going to take you this amount of time to get ready, or this amount of time to get there. Set your timer and be ready to go at that point. But don't be governed by the time in between now and then by the clock. What can you do? What feels good? And relanguaging that, how we're using our time. Because importantly, when I kept saying day off, and it wasn't a day off, I was still working, I was feeling even more exhausted because I'm like, but I have a day off and I don't feel rested. So it's kind of like a mind fuck to ourselves when I say if you're a Monday through Friday worker and it's the weekend and that's time off for you, but you're not taking time off, the reason you're not feeling rested is because you're calling it something, but you're not actually, your actions don't match that.
No, and we're taught that you have to be doing something. Like, you, okay, day off, or I'm not working my 9 to 5. What am I going to do? No, it doesn't have to be like that. And I am embracing that a little more too with even the eating thing. Like, I eat when I'm hungry. I don't necessarily go by a clock. I typically wake up around 6ish during the week, and I just had a banana, which is the first thing I put in my mouth, and it's whatever time it. You know what I mean? Like,
I can tell you, it's 11-ish.
okay, so that's the first thing I've eaten, but I wasn't hungry and I wasn't worried about it. So I've definitely been more with the eating thing. Um, Still have some limitations with the schedule that I keep with my son and his sports and that kind of stuff.
But it's not all of your time,
No,
right?
correct.
That's the point I
Right.
was trying to make. We still have places we need to be and things we
Right.
have agreed to do. But that doesn't mean that has to dictate all of your time.
Right.
So the time in between, how can you listen to your natural rhythms? How can you govern it versus the other way around? Oh, I only have an hour, so I can't do anything. How about rest?
Right. Sit in the chair, read a book, look out the window, watch
sometimes
birds.
like I know you cook dinner for your family, but sometimes you eat at different times from them. And I know a lot of people are like, well, family time, you probably still sit with them while they eat
I
them.
do.
Yeah. But you eat when you want to eat, not,
Correct.
and
Correct.
it helps that you already have kind of a different meal plan than they do. But like, why,
It does.
right? That's okay. That's another structure that a system that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And how can you work with that?
It is. And my poor husband, he's dealing with some of this too, because I'll eat at whatever time and I'll say, you guys want something. If I'm making something, I'll offer. It's XYZ time. I'm not eating that. Like, well, that's your choice.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm still eating. That's your choice. I'll make it maybe, and maybe I won't.
Right.
But that's a learning process too, because you still are cohabitating, co-creating, all of those things
Right.
as well.
Well,
So,
even not, I was stuck in that. Well, I want dinner, but it's 3:30 in the afternoon, right, or whatever, because I've only had one meal so far, so I'm hungry earlier. And I was like, no, I need to wait. And then I was like, why do I need to wait? Like, my body's hungry. If I listen to my body, then I can do that. So you don't necessarily have to be with family. We still have restrictions.
however, there's the caveat of the, again, social conditioning, relanguaging. Oh, well, are you old? Do you have to go to the early bird now? Like,
Who says that?
Oh my goodness.
They're not my people. I don't talk to them.
Don't ever come introduce yourself to my parents. Okay? But there are still those things that are out there. There are still those, like, my husband would be the first one to make fun. Joking,
That make fun.
but make fun.
Right. So we get to take those opportunities to correct people. You know,
Yes.
why do you care if I eat dinner at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and why does that make me old because I want to eat dinner because my body is hungry, right? We get to take that opportunity to start to change, shift people.
And more importantly, how does it affect you?
You're right.
In no way, sense, shape, or form
Right.
does it affect somebody else
Right.
what time I eat.
I think when people are doing that kind of thing, it's like, oh, wait, you're jumping outside of the box. This is outside of the system, and I have to shine a light on that because that makes me uncomfortable that you're outside of the system.
Yes.
So if you're on a path of ascension, get used to that. I mean, that is the path, is making other people uncomfortable all the time.
Yes.
I kind of like
regularly.
I kind of like it. I kind of get a kick out of like, oh, did I make you uncomfortable?
Maybe.
So that's okay, because that's that structure of time and work day and time off and all of that is manufactured, and it's not that old in the grand scheme of human history, right?
No, and it's
200 years versus 300,000 years. This is a new thing, and it's not working for us. Because you look at how sick people are, how stressed out, how I have time for nothing, blah, blah, blah. All of those things, that is this construct of time, which isn't working for us.
No, because it was manufactured for control.
Yeah.
Sole reason was for somebody to be able to control somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't like control.
Well, you know, I don't.
I did for a while. I was definitely the OCD type A.
Sure.
I mean, 100%.
Absolutely, me too.
My clocks in my house are still set that if I look at one and it doesn't match the other one, like, they all get reset. So I still have that going on, people. Like, I'm feeling it with you.
I used to be like that too, and then it became like not having my clocks accurate became like almost a self challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can I get used to this? And is it okay? Because I don't live my life by a clock anyway, even though I do have an outside job. I try not to live my life by a clock. So it sort of became a challenge. It's around that time. It's around this time. You won't hear me say it's 11:09. I'll be like, it's 11ish.
Yeah, right. Well, and like you said, we all have the phones that you can easily pick it up and look for a time. So I might go home and just disable a couple of mine. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So, so the main point about even coming to time was, how are you languaging the use of your time, and to shift into you govern your time, and in governing your time, it's important to define it accurately. And if it's not time off, don't call it time off.
Right.
And then make sure that you schedule for yourself time off, so that you do get that sense of rest and restoration and revitalization that we so desperately need. We are not meant to be doing things all of the time, right? That again is a modern construct, and it is making us sick. It is not evolving humanity. If I look at humanity from a spiritual, empowered, um, emotionally intelligent lens, we are going in the wrong direction.
Right.
We are totally going in the wrong direction. And it's time to like start dismantling these things that are pulling us that way, and to pave a way that is much healthier body, mind, and spirit, and more collaborative versus you tell me when I can do something. No. about it. This works for me. This doesn't. Think about your friends who are never on time. We've all got the people who are never on time, and that is because that system of time so goes against their grain.
It does. And then they get thrown back of, well, that's a lack of respect. You don't respect my time. I mean, and we
Which is,
talked about relanguaging that word
Yeah.
anyway, but that was thrown at us all. Well, when that person's not on time for you, that means they don't respect you.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with you. It
Right.
has to do with their system cannot conform to this prescribed
Correct.
system, and it doesn't work. And I think if we were really honest with ourselves, it doesn't work for most people, right? And I think this goes back to the human design, and the manifester is 5% of the population. That's a very small percentage of the population that this system of time works for, right? That works for that personality. And the 95% of us, that some of us can conform and make it work. But
or take it to extreme.
Right, take it to an extreme. Right. Like I'm not naturally, I don't think I was naturally OCD. I wasn't naturally an A-type personality. It was a trauma response, actually, for me. I know that to be true. It was a trauma response. And then I was like, oh, this makes me feel horrible. Like I literally can't stand myself. I have to stop doing that. So I think for the majority of us, it's just making us sick. And it's just, it's creating an unfulfilling and unsatisfying and unaligned life.
It is, because the other side of that too is the little voice in the head saying, what will other people think if you don't do the timeline? If your kid's late to school every day, what are they gonna do?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. It's because we have been taught for so long to worry about what somebody else is gonna think or say about something you do. This is no different.
Yeah. And I think one of the benefits of COVID and that time of being shut down is so many people got to work from home and stayed working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it really opened the door of let's look at our day in a different way.
Right.
Let's have a different lens.
Right.
As long as I am getting my prescribed job done, what damn difference does it make what time?
Right, and not only that, and like, who wants to spend an hour in a car each direction traveling to and from?
Right.
And now look, people take those kinds of jobs. Good for you if that's what you've agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
This is for the I'm thinking this doesn't work for me kind of crowd, and whatever you choose is always fine for you. We're not we're not.
Natalie always likes to do the disclaimer. I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Screw the system.
Yeah. But we're not going down that road because we're not making anybody right or wrong.
Correct.
We're just saying what feels natural.
Right.
And I think we've been taught to feel the unnatural for so long that we need to remember this portion.
Yeah. But if you can't sleep and your eating habits your digestion is messed up, your eating habits are off, you're trying to force yourself to exercise in the morning because that's the only time the people who are getting up at the crack of dawn in order to fit in their personal time, like that's not working. That is trying to contort yourself into this system that doesn't work. And I'm just saying, look at your life.
Right. And how you do things.
How you do things. And how much it is controlled by this idea of time. And can you flip the script and you govern your life versus time governing your life?
And see how it goes.
See how it goes.
And it may not be easy at first.
None of this is easy, Natalie.
Wouldn't it be nice?
What if it was easy? I mean, I do use that phrase. What if it was easy? And I think I truly believe it's the resistance and the fighting of something different that creates the suffering anyway. Yes. And it can be easy. As long as you surrender. let's surrender to this idea that, time is not linear. It is a construct. It is a relatively modern construct. And if it's not working for you, how can you know, shift some language, shift some perspective?
Because you're the one in control.
Because you are the
And
one-
we forget. And
We
you
do.
can only control yourself.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe, like, share, and feel free to leave any comments. This is Natalie with much love and appreciation.
And Marnie in beauty, love, and light. Until next time.